director and methodology brand responsible for the methodology work of the Census of Population. She joined the Census of Population in this role in 2023, having spent the better part of the previous decade in various roles managing and leading the Census of Agriculture. Tanya Hinchcliffe is the 2026 Census of Population Content Determination Manager. She joined the Census team in 2021. And Nicole Britnell has worked in the Census of Population since 2011 and is currently a media and marketing officer in Census Production and Dissemination Service within the Census Operation Division. Her work focuses on user satisfaction measurement through the Census of Population Dissemination Consultation, as well as briefing and assisting media clients ahead of each of the major census data release and assisting with the standard product validation. So with that, I would like to turn the call over to you guys. Thank you. I think you're on mute.
Thank you. So I think I'm going to start us off with presenting the changes and updates to methodology for the census population for this cycle. So I'll cover, we can move on to the next slide. Thanks, Tanya, for doing this for me. I'll cover three main elements that are really new for this cycle. So the first is that we have a new frame. The Statistical Building Register is a new frame that defines the list of dwellings in the target population. Previously, we had the address register, and now we're shifting to this new list of records. Secondly, I'll talk a little bit about our collection processes and some of the new elements we have there. I'll cover what we call our WAVE methodology, which consists of our approach to how we contact respondents through invitation letters, reminders, and follow-up. Then I'll briefly talk a little bit about the alternate secure access code, which is a new option for respondents to use in filling in their electronic questionnaire. We have early enumeration that has returned for this cycle, and we have introduced a chatbot, which we didn't have before. And lastly, I'll talk a little bit about the expanded use of administrative data through our small-scale live test. So the Statistical Building Register is, as I said, a new frame that we're using. It is what replaces the address register we previously had. What it covers the entire country and consists of building information. It's built from various administrative sources, which collectively provide a comprehensive list of residential, commercial, and mixed-use buildings. The SBGR contains building attributes such as geolocation, occupancy, and contact information. And for approximately 91% of residential buildings, we have mailable addresses on this register. And so this is what we use as our starting point in creating the list of addresses that we will use for our mail-out population that we send invitation letters to. So in 2026, the SBGR identifies these dwellings that are associated to residential building addresses, and those are the ones that receive our invitation letters requesting respondents to complete the questionnaire online. For any of the areas that are in the non-mailable area, so with their addresses don't have mailable, are not mailable, we send invitations by drop-off activities through field operations staff, or some are enumerated through a list leave approach. We can move on to the next slide. This is an image that depicts what we call our collection WAVE methodology. So as I said, we have 91% of our dwellings are in mail-out areas. So we start off with our what we call WAVE 1 invitation letters. So those were all mailed out last Monday. Yes, last Monday. And should have now all been received across the country. And at the same time, we have wave one drop off that also happens in those areas where we have addresses, but they're not mailable. So we send out some of our staff to drop off letters at the door. And we also have our list leave operations in the remote and reserve areas where we go in person as well to list the dwellings that are there and to drop off letters at the same time. So as you see, as we move forward through the process, we have various different points of contact that we make with remaining outstanding respondents. So Census Day was our big day. That's the reference date for the census. So this is what we tell people we'd like them to respond by, because that's the reference marker for us. But we do follow up quite a bit to make sure that everyone gets a chance to send in their response. So as we speak, we have our wave 2 material. So these are reminder letters that are going to be mailed to any remaining dwellings that haven't responded yet. And today and tomorrow, some people will receive text message reminders as well to kind of, nudge them to go back to their mailbox, pick up the letter and send in their response. And so on it goes. We have a various number of reminders that happen throughout the next few weeks. Our goal really is to get as much self-response as we possibly can. And so this is why we have this staggered approach in reminding people at different points in time. After some time, at the end of May, we will start some of the follow-up in person. So we will have some field enumerators go out and seek out those last few responses that are still missing at that point in time. While all this is happening, people do have the opportunity to request paper questionnaires. We have an automated system that does this, so they can phone into that number and ask for a paper questionnaire to be mailed to them. That is available to everyone. Okay, so we'll move on to the next slide and we'll talk about some of the other collection initiatives. As I mentioned, this cycle for the first time, we have what we call the alternate secure access code. So this is something that allows respondents to fill in their electronic questionnaire without having their initial secure access code that was mailed to them. So sometimes people will lose their letter, their invitation letter. We know this can happen, cannot find it after some time, but they get a reminder that they should respond. So this is an option that they can use to respond. This aims to enhance the respondent experience and make self-response easier. As I mentioned, self-response is our absolute preferred way to get respondents to send in their questionnaires. So the EQ portal allows for respondents to essentially generate a new secure access code. They provide their address in the spaces of the form, and a secure access code request is generated, which is then matched to our systems, and the EQ can then start. Privacy and security are of course preserved, and this is the same as the secure portal of our regular questionnaire. And any requests that haven't been matched successfully instantly are resolved after the fact. So this response option should help reduce the number of people that end up calling the census helpline because they can't find their secure access code. Along the way, our linkage processes and resolution have been optimized, of course, for this cycle following very rigorous development and testing, since it's a new process for us. Okay, so some other initiatives for this cycle, as I mentioned, early enumeration was included again. It was reintroduced for 2026 after we had it canceled due to COVID in 2021. So this process aims to enumerate the people in some of the northern reserve and remote areas when it is easier to access these areas. So we started this collection in February because some areas in that part of the country are easier to access through ice roads, for example, or when people in those communities are more likely to be at their main residence as well. Collection for this part of operations is done through listing and drop off of invitation letters, and then online completions via the EQ are done where possible. After that, we have in-person interviews with enumerators in the field. The alternate secure access code portal was not available for the early enumeration component, but the census helpline was there to support respondents. And finally, for collection initiatives, we have the chatbot. This is also a new initiative. It is something that respondents can access right from the front page of the census website, and it aims to help respondents get the information that they need. So it provides consistent, accurate, and approved responses to common questions, such as why are you doing the census, for example. It provides automated support to census respondents with an option to transfer to a live agent in any situations where the chatbot is unable to adequately answer the question that's being asked. And finally, I'll talk a little bit about our expanded use of administrative data. So we have ongoing research activities for an increased use of administrative data towards a combined census in 2031. This work has been happening over many years, and we're at the point where we're really looking more seriously at what can be done to integrate administrative data into a more of a combined census approach. So what is a combined census? This is where the information collected directly from respondents through something like the EQ will be integrated with administrative data that individuals have already provided to other government organizations and agencies for the purpose of enumerating the population. A combined census would leverage the statistical demographic database, which is built from the integration of already acquired federal and provincial government administrative data sources, and includes naturally demographic information at the person level. Statistical models are then used to create administrative households of in-scope people at a given administrative address. So in 2026, so for this cycle, we are going to conduct a live test which aims to test the replacement using administrative data and the combined census model. So we're aiming to use administrative data to replace a small volume of dwellings, approximately 130,000 will be part of this live test, with high quality administrative data where at the time that we start the non-response follow-up, for any that are still unresolved, that are still not responding, we would utilize administrative data replacement for 130,000 of such cases. The data replacement would be for a limited number of short-term variables, which include age, sex, and household size. And I think that concludes my part of the presentation. So I'll pass it over back to Tanya to continue.
Hi, yeah, I'm just going to shut down and transfer over while I do that. I'm going to give two presentations today. The first one is about the content consultation, but just before I start, I have a slide here. Amanda, I don't know if you wanted to speak briefly to this, or this is our data service center. And so again, just hey, hi.
It was awkward. I was just standing and exposed a little bit of myself, but all this to say, just one sec, I just moved my screen over. So we are the Data Service Center, and So we've worked really closely with the Community Data Program, and we've been collaborating with the Community Data Program for many, many years. Essentially, if you do have any questions related to StatCan products and services that are outside of the Community Data Program, you can contact us. We have a little link at the bottom of the screen here, InfoStats, and we're really happy to help you. So as you know, StatCan, our biggest program is the Census, but we have a lot of other data sources. So if you have anything that's not under the umbrella of the Community Data Program, feel free to contact us. And again, sorry for that little awkwardness. It happens on Teams sometimes.
Sorry to catch you off guard.
No, it's okay. It's all good. There we
That's
go.
great.
I'm going to continue to
Thanks,
stand now.
Amanda.
Just trying to get a
Perfect.
little bit of standing as opposed to sitting all day. One
Fair
moment,
enough.
please. Over to you, Tanya.
Fair enough. Thank you. Okay, so moving on. So I just want to speak to the content consultation. So we obviously, this is the timeline leading up to the census. You can see on the right hand side, we are here. Well, we're actually a couple of days after, but this is the process that got us to the point where we are in terms of the content of the census questionnaire. Between spring and fall 2023, Statistics Canada conducted qualitative tests on proposed content changes and worked to evaluate and determine content recommendations for testing in 2024. After we did the 2024 quantitative testing, which was conducted between May and October 2024, the results were then analyzed. Other factors were considered, for example, respondent burden, cost, operational constraints. And then the final set of recommendations were submitted to Cabinet, and Cabinet was the one who determined the final content of the census. In spring 2025, we got that Cabinet go ahead for the content for 2026. And as a final step, the content was published in the Canada Gazette on Saturday, July 5th, 2025. While I'm on the slide, I just want to highlight that, as you can see, it's a 5-year cycle. Content consultations for the 26 census started in late 22, early 23, and a heads up that content consultations for the 2031 census will be starting in late 27, early 28. We'd love your support in getting the word out, and if there's anything we can do to come back and loop in with you guys or get you involved, get your partners and data users involved, that'd be great. That's my own little plug for myself there. Moving on, for those of you who may not be aware, we have some new content on the 2026 census. We have a question on general health. We have some questions on homelessness, and we also have a new question on sexual orientation for Canadians aged 15 and over. We also have the religion question returning in 2026. This question was asked in 2021 and is normally included on every census cycle that ends in a 1. This is the first time that we're including the religion question in a census year that ends in a 6. Other questions, as you can see below, were modified in an effort to improve respondent understanding and increase data quality. I've included, I'm not going to go through my full deck because it's 32 slides, but you guys have the deck, I believe, and you can see those modifications on some of the appendices if you want to delve into that. So this is the new general health slide. On the left-hand side, you can see the new question. And it's a simple, valid, reliable measure and an important indicator for overall health status and well-being that can be used for program evaluation and planning at all levels. It's among the top data gaps that were reported during our content consultation period. And this question aligns with Statistics Canada's harmonized content, and this question is actually used in many of our health surveys. The homelessness questions look like this, again on the left-hand side. The questions capture a 1-year retrospective experience with absolute and hidden homelessness, as well as current experience with hidden homelessness. Homelessness was, again, among the top data gaps and that was identified, and information can be used at all levels to evaluate requirements in the National Housing Strategy Act and for program evaluation and resource allocation. The sexual orientation question, again, on the left, it's only asked for people aged 15 years and older, so those born before May 12th, 2011. The sexual orientation was among the top data gaps reported during content consultation. And as of 1996, the Canadian Human Rights Act specifically includes sexual orientation as one of the prohibited grounds for discrimination. It is one of very few, I think there might be one other one, groups identified in the Act for which census data are not currently available. The addition of the question on sexual orientation on the 2026 census enables Statistics Canada to produce census data on the 2S LGBTQ plus population and provide an opportunity for Canadians to respond to a questionnaire that reflects the diversity of the population. The religion question, again, first time on a census year ending in 6. There are no changes to the question. However, there is a list of examples of denominations or religions, and that list is updated with every cycle. So that list has been updated for 2026. People can, on the electronic questionnaire, they can click a button and they can get a sample. If they're not sure kind of what to put in, they can click the drop in, they can see the example list. They're not restricted to it. Obviously, there's an open text field. They can put in anything that they'd like, but that list is there available for reference should the need arise. This is our census of population life cycle. As you can see, began in late 2021 here on top at the start, and we've come all the way around to the 9 o'clock position. I would argue maybe even 10 o'clock position. And we'll be continuing through into the fall of 2027, late 2027 with our data releases. There's still lots of work remaining to be done, especially since we're in the thick of collection. But there's also disseminating the data, which I think is something that you guys as our data users are really looking forward to. So that's coming. And just to highlight our steps. So again, currently in 26-27, ending in March 2027. So we're going through our main collection period. We're doing our non-response follow-ups through May through July. Data processing runs from May to September. And then in early 2027, we'll be releasing population and dwelling counts. 27-28, that's when we complete the dissemination. So we're all hands on deck for disseminating that data and getting it out into the hands of our users. And we're also doing some data quality studies. And then 28-29 internally, that's when we review the cycle and, lessons learned for next time. The last slide that I'll share with you, just so that you're aware that it's there, I've included a bunch of links to information on the content. And these links will, of course, link you to other places. I'm thinking the Road to 2026 specifically links to technical reports and fact sheets that provide more information on the new content areas as well as other content of the census. So those links are all there. If there's any questions, please reach out to us. I have shared the presentation, or I will share the presentation. There's an appendix for another 20 slides with more information on the modifications to the questions. But in the essence of time, I'm going to stop there for this. And I'm just going to stop sharing my screen while I pivot over. So my colleague, when we presented back in January, my colleague Ida DiDomenico presented on changes to our collective dwelling strategy. Ida has since retired after working on 9 census cycles over 41 years, and it's a well-deserved retirement. And I am stepping in to do the presentation on the collective dwellings. So because I'm new to this, I have actually asked my colleague Scott to join us. He's there, he's waving in the room, and he should be able to help with any questions that come up that I can't answer, because I've been on this file for 6 weeks and I haven't learned everything on it yet. I'm going to flip over. I inherited this presentation. I'm going to, there we go. The first little part gives the backstory as to why changes were made for 2021, and then I'll get into why the changes were made for 2021. I'll try and go through it fairly quickly, but again, if any questions, please feel free. So with that in mind, there's the overview. I'm just going to jump straight through to the definitions. So a collective dwelling. What is it? We define a collective dwelling as a dwelling of commercial, institutional, or communal in nature, in which a person or a group of persons reside or could reside. It must provide care or services or have common facilities shared by the occupants, such as a kitchen, dining room, or a bathroom. The other term that's important to keep in mind is usual residence. The census counts people in the dwelling in which they usually live to ensure that a person is only enumerated once. And for that case, we enumerate, people are enumerated in their usual place of residence. So their usual residence, that's another term that we use. There are many types of collective dwellings grouped into two main categories. There's institutional and non-institutional. Institutional dwellings will include hospitals, your long-term care homes, residential care facilities, shelters, correctional institutions, and religious establishments. Non-institutional dwellings might include lodging or rooming houses, Hutterite colonies, and establishments with temporary accommodation services. So your hotel, campgrounds, hostels, your military bases, your work camps, school residences. These are how we split the collective dwellings into the two categories. Before 2021, collective dwellings were traditionally enumerated by a census employee in the field. Institutional dwellings would have an administrator who would work with the administrator to answer on behalf of the residents. Non-institutional dwellings, enumerators would leave a questionnaire for the usual residents and then return to collect the completed questionnaires. And for non-institutional dwellings, we would only collect like a resident count, a usual resident count. Okay. In 2021, COVID pandemic protocols were in place, and that meant that our enumerators could not enter the institutional dwellings. This forced a change onto how we collect the data. An electronic questionnaire was introduced, allowing the administrators of collective institutional collective dwellings to report for their facilities. Field collection was retained for rooming houses and Hutterite communities only. And non-response follow-up by enumerators was suspended for institutional collective dwellings and replaced with a telephone follow-ups for both institutional and non-institutional collectives. Administrative data was acquired for people living in federal penitentiaries, which therefore reduced the burden on administrators by replacing the need to collect the data through other means. The changes forced upon us by the COVID-19 pandemic provided some challenges. So first, because enumerators were not permitted to enter institutional collective dwellings, StatCan relied on administrators to determine the status of their dwelling when completing the online electronic questionnaire. And the electronic questionnaire was introduced in response to the pandemic without the usual testing and development steps that we would normally go through to ensure that administrators can use the tool without issue. As a result, some of the concepts were not always understood by administrators, and this resulted in a large number of canceled or descoped dwellings. Second, some of the collective dwelling administrators returned blank or incomplete data on their residents. And finally, the third challenge was that Statistics Canada observed a large increase in the number of private dwellings attached to collectives. We refer to them as private attached. And these are those that share the same address as the collective dwelling, but it's not affiliated with the collective dwelling, and residents don't receive any services from the collective. Following 2021, StatCan set out some objectives for the 2026 cycle. These included maximizing the data collected on usual residents of collective dwellings and improving data quality. To maximize the data collected, StatCan made the decision to collect short-form demographic data from usual residents in non-institutional dwellings, as opposed to just a head count, and also to allow residents to self-respond online without requiring their secure access code, so they could go in through the NOSAC portal and answer their own census, provide their own information. To improve data quality, StatCan incorporated collective dwellings in pre-census qualitative and operational testing and made improvements to the electronic questionnaire for administrators, returned to in-person follow-ups, and conducted a pre-contact survey for selected collective dwellings to improve the frame. This just gives you an overview of the development cycle. I won't spend too much time on it, but I do want to point out that, as you can see, that the development for 2026 for the questionnaire for used in 2026 started in 2022. So with that in mind, if we flash back to 2021, development would have started in 2017. Obviously, we didn't know the pandemic was coming, and so we were stuck without having the opportunity to do that development work. The first step towards maximizing, the data collected was to begin collecting basic short form data for all usual residents in both institutional and non-institutional collective dwellings. And it was determined that this information would be collected using an electronic questionnaire where possible. The second step was to allow residents of collective dwellings to self-enumerate, while StatCan is still reaching out to administrators to complete the census for collective dwellings. Like I mentioned, there's the NorthStack portal available to residents who want to complete their own questionnaire. And as part of improving data quality, we reworked the electronic questionnaire for the 26 cycle. This work involved testing concepts and questions with administrators and collective dwellings to ensure that things were clear. While this is the normal process, we were unable to complete it in 2021. Going through this testing allowed us to probe on wording and concepts and delve into flows and roster functionalities that should improve the respondent experience and improve the quality of the data. Okay, for the first time, the collective EQ was tested during the census test operations. The census test is Statistics Canada's second largest operation after the census itself. It takes place 2 years before the census. And during the census test, everything is tested from field operations and communications to IT infrastructure and data processing. And this allows us time to make any tweaks and final preparations before the actual census itself. As a result of the testing, some changes were made to the electronic questionnaire to improve data quality. This included simplifying definitions and adding in help text to support respondents. So these are the administrators of the dwellings, as well as the administrators, mainly the administrators of the dwellings. We also included some pre-filled data about the collective dwellings for a respondent in an effort to reduce the burden. We added a roster manager and a component list, as well as improved flows and added instruction blocks to clarify complex concepts. All of these changes were made in response to feedback that we collected during testing, and we anticipate that these changes will result in better data quality. We have also reintroduced in-person visits as part of our follow-up strategy to ensure better data quality. Our first follow-up attempts will be through phone interviews, and then we will follow up with field in-person visits if required. As part of improving data quality, StatCan also completed a pre-contact survey in 2025. This survey involved connecting with approximately 1/3 of collective dwellings identified in 2021 to validate the information about the dwelling itself. This work involved contacting approximately 13,500 collectives to confirm the information that we have on our frame is correct. So contact name, address, confirmation of collective dwelling status, and type of collective dwelling, and to identify any private dwellings that are attached to the collectives that would require a separate SAC or self-response. In helping to identify private attached dwellings, the pre-contact survey enabled StatCan to improve data quality by ensuring that we capture data from residents living in those private attached dwellings who are not enumerated through the collective dwellings, where previously this group might have been missed. In 2021, we collaborated with our partners at the StatCan Center for Justice Statistics to use previously collected data from correctional institutions for people in federal custody. This addressed a known undercoverage issue for this population, and through data linkages, and enabled us to ensure that people were not being double counted in federal correctional institutions and at their private dwellings. This worked well, and we are currently hoping that we'll be able to expand the use of administrative data in 2031 to include previously collected data from Hutterite communities or Hutterite colonies. We've also noticed some challenges with the overall frame for collective dwellings, and we are continually working on improvements. As part of the pre-contact survey, we were able to identify and make improvements to the frame, and this is ongoing work that will continue. Finally, this slide is included to give you an idea of the steps taken as we continually work to improve our frame. And with that, I'm at the end of my second presentation, so I will stop sharing my screen and I'll hand it over to Nicole.
Thanks, Tanya. So I am just going to share my screen now. I do not have a PowerPoint presentation. We're going live off the website, so hopefully the website is in a good mood today. Just give me one moment and we'll start right from the top. So yesterday, we had released our release plans and dissemination strategy to the public. So I'm going to take you to that module right now, and I'll take you right from the top just so that you're aware of how to find that as well. So from the statcan.gc.ca landing page, I'm just going to select English, and that's our landing page for StatCan. If I go up to Census, I would maybe be inclined to pick 2026 census. However, that is for collection right now. I'm going to go into census of population. So that's what we call our census web module, where we disseminate our census products, such as data analytical and reference products. So for those who are familiar with the overall look and feel of the Census web module, you might notice a little bit of a change in the look and feel of it. The top part here has been updated to represent a 2026 census image, but you're still able to find 2021 census data from this area here. Scrolling down a little bit introduces you to our 2026 census of population area. And what I'm going to show you today is the release plans as well as our census dissemination planning web module. So first, what I'll do is I'll go into our census dissemination planning module. We'll be seeing the release plans in here as well. So this basically is a spot where our users can learn about our planning and progress for the dissemination of the most recent census. So we have 4 tiles here. We have overview and release plans. We have products and services. We have what's new, and we have how to get involved and stay informed. You are probably interested in overview and release plans. So we'll go into that tile first. And it gives a brief overview of our strategy. So similar to the 2021 census, not a lot has changed with regards to this overall strategy itself. We're still seeking to increase the value of statistical information, strengthen partnerships and collaboration. We want to maximize reach as well. The completion of our 2026 census releases will be seen through to December 2027, so actually December 1st, 2027. Past that, we will continue to disseminate complementary data and analysis related to the release content after what's known internally as our major releases are done. So what are those major releases? Just down here, they start on February 10th, 2027 with the population and dwelling counts. And we go as far down as I mentioned it earlier, December 1st, 2027 with 6 topics to end us off. So I'm just going to scroll back up and go into the release plans topic a bit. You might find it useful that we've included downloadable calendar. So for those who like to keep census-related release information in their calendars, you can download that here into your Google, Apple, or Outlook calendar. We also have a printable poster where you can download those release dates and topics. It also has a QR code on the poster where if you scan it with your cell phone, it will take you directly to our census web module where we first landed for 2026 census. So for those who have been around a little while, you would probably be familiar if I said that we have 7 data releases. That's the traditional approach that we've taken previously with our censuses. It's always been 7 data releases where it's been the full-blown kind of suite of data products and analytical offerings and reference products coming out. This time around, just because we have many, many topics coming out this time, and we want to ensure that we meet the timeliness for our users, we are kind of switching that release strategy a little bit. So there will actually be 2 release dates, which are September 8th, 2027 and October 27th, 2027, where a limited number of product offerings will be provided. So what do I mean by limited? That just refers to articles in the daily will be released, as well as a census in brief for each of those topics coming out on September 8th and October 27th. As well, a limited number of data tables will be made available per the topics on those dates. Now, if you can wrap your head around that, following each of those releases, so looking towards September 28th, 2027, which is about 3 weeks after September 8th, 2027, and December 1st, we will release additional data products and reference materials per topic at those releases for the topics. So if I explain this visually, because we want to make sure our users understand this. So September 8th, 2027 has the topics of language, housing, and Canadian military experience coming out. Now with those topics, we will have a limited release. So a daily, a census in brief per topic, limited number of data tables and reference materials will be coming out on September 8th. And then come September 28th, which is release number 5, on top of a full-blown release of data analytical and reference materials for Indigenous peoples, mobility, and poverty, we will also be releasing additional data for language, housing, and Canadian military experience. So you can take the topics here and just push them down into here where you'll have more information on top of the full-blown release for Indigenous peoples, mobility, and poverty. That same thing happens with October 27th as well. So if I look at our topics, we have immigration, place of birth and citizenship, ethnocultural and religious diversity, sexual orientation, and general health. That will all be a limited release where you'll see the data, census and brief, the daily, a census and brief per topic, limited number of data tables and reference materials. And further information for those topics will be coming out along with these additional topics on December 1st. So December 1st will be your traditional release, but with additional topics from October 27th added on. I hope that makes sense right now. If not, please feel free to ask me further questions after the presentation here. And ultimately, it's the reason for this change in release strategy is just due to the number of census topics that will be available now. The aim of our release strategy is to spread out the number of topics on a given release day while still respecting the timeliness that our users want from all of the data and respecting the dissemination of information on each topic. So I'll scroll back here. And that was a taste of our release plans. Next, I'll just pop into products and services. So this just speaks a little to the development of our products and services line. We want to develop products in a way that allows users to engage with the census data in a variety of ways. So whether that be the census profile, whether it be infographics, analytical offerings, we want you to be able to play with the data in many different ways. Now, that being said, our users may notice a difference in product and service offerings compared to previous censuses. So we will have a new product, very exciting. I'm not sure if any of you have heard this, but we will be coming out with a new product called Census Data on Demand. And that will be a product where users will be able to create and customize their own data tables. That will be coming out in September. I have this written down, September of 2027 with the first long form release. So something to look forward to. Now, that being said, we are retiring some products. So one of the products being retired is called Focus on Geography series, as well as thematic maps. Our users may also notice fewer interactive charts compared to the number that we published for the 2021 census. Again, this is due to the increased number of census topics and considerations with regards to the timeliness of delivering the information to our users. Further down on this page, we have a 2026 Census of Population Products and Services map. So we produced this for 2021 if you had seen that back then, but this is an updated version for 2026. So essentially, we just provide you with a roadmap of our products, from data products to analytical products, reference materials, data visualization, geography products, and custom services. For example, if I go into data products, that will give me a listing of all of our data products that we're planning to put out with 2026 census data. So you'll see here the census profile, data tables, key indicators, the new product, census data on demand, Indigenous population profile, special interest profile, and the public use microdata files for both hierarchical and individuals. If I open up this tab, it just gives me a brief description of the data product and tells me that that will be available by topic according to our release schedule that you saw not long ago. Further down on the page is a feature comparison. So if you're looking to compare features within the data products themselves, and any of our other products also have these feature comparison tables, you can compare the various products here by their geography levels that are available, the formats available, whether a web data service is available, if historical data sets are a part of that product, and supporting documentation. If any of you are wondering what all of these geography acronyms mean, if you hover over here, it will tell you. So CD equals Census Division. We also have a footnote here to explain the geography levels. So I'll just scroll back and I'll show you this. So this time around, we developed a kind of handy sheet based on dissemination consultation and what we heard from users. So that sheet is called Which 2026 Census of Population Products Are Best Suited for My Needs. This came out of what we heard in dissemination consultation from our users about they know we have a lot of data products, analytical products, reference materials, but they aren't always sure that the product that they're using is best suited for their requirements. So we've come out with this kind of quick guide to try and assist you with finding the appropriate data product that might help you best with your needs. So here we just have some various kind of self-serve questions. So are you looking for a comprehensive list of data characteristics, such as a profile of a specific geographic area? In this case, then we would recommend a profile to you. So for example, the census profile, the Indigenous population profile, special interest profile. For someone looking to just want to read analysis of census data, we would be recommending the daily Census in Brief and Insights on Canadian Society. And so it's really kind of a self-serve option where hopefully we kind of point you towards the data product that would best suit your needs. Scrolling back, I'll go from the product map back onto our products and services page, and then back onto our main page for the dissemination planning pages. Under what's new, that just outlines what's new for the 2026 census. So we speak briefly about the content consultations and the 2024 census test. We also reiterate that census information is used to make decisions at various levels of government and for the country as a whole. Further down, we point to the content changes. So there were a series of fact sheets, there are 10, that just speak to the new and modified content that you can access from here. And further down, we go on to talk about the data products for the 2026 census. So as I previously mentioned, we do have that new data product coming out, Census Data on Demand. Hopefully that will hopefully it will meet the desire of many users in order to be able to create and customize their own census data tables. Something new is a rebranding of one of our products. For anyone who is familiar with the Census Program Data Viewer data product, CPDV, we are rebranding that as Census Data Maps and Charts, CDMC. So that basically came out of a consultation with our internal users and new users where the name better reflects the actual functionality and purpose of the product. So Census Program Data Viewer, as it's known now, will be rebranded to Census Data Maps and Charts for the 2026 census. We're also hoping to add a bit more kind of functionality into the tool, not something too radical, but just something to improve the user experience, and just have our users kind of give it a try more. It's been kind of an underdog product, so we're hoping that a lot more users will gravitate to this product with its rebrand. Again, focus on geography series will not be offered. We are encouraging our users to access that census data maps and charts, as well as the census profile with the absence of focus on geography series. Thematic maps also will not be offered for the 2026 census. And with that, we do encourage users to access census data maps and charts, currently known as Census Program Data Viewer. So definitely encourage you to check that out before our release on February 10th, 2027. Finally, we have a how to get involved and stay informed section to this web module. So this time around, what we have new is a release email list to stay informed for the 2026 census releases. Traditionally, I think we had relied on our users to go check our website, or maybe through word of mouth or links sent through email or release emails sent from various stakeholders. This time around, we want to be more proactive with our users, and so we have given you the opportunity to sign up to our release email list. We will be using a Government of Canada approved communications tool called GC Notify. So if you are interested in signing up to our release email list, you can click on Add My Email to the release email list. If ever you want to unsubscribe from that release email list, you can just click on Remove My Email from the list, and we will remove your email. Essentially, the release emails will just contain a rundown of what's coming out for each release on release day. So it will link to various products that are coming out, including analytical and reference products. So something definitely, if you like staying informed with census news, sign up to our email list. And further down on the page here, I have a quick blurb about our program consultation. So as Tanya spoke to earlier, there's content consultation as well as dissemination consultation. Dissemination consultation starts kind of ramping up at the end of our major release period. So after December 1st, 2027 is when we look to start our dissemination consultation, which I'll plug here for myself. And that just aims to determine the level of satisfaction that our users have with the products that were published for the 2026 census. So you can read more about that here at our link. If you have any questions or comments on each of these tiles at the bottom of the page, we do have a way for you to get in touch with us. So if you have any comments or questions from the presentations today, feel free to scroll to the bottom, and this just sends an email to our Census Dissemination Consultation inbox, which goes straight to me. And if I can't answer your question today, or if you've emailed us, I will definitely find a way to answer it and get back to you. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen right now and hand things back over to our next speaker. So thank you very much for your time and attention.
Great. Are we in the Q&A session right now? Amanda, are you?
I would say yes. I would definitely say yes.
Okay, for sure. Okay, if anyone has any questions, I can pass the mic over to you. Hopefully they will capture it here. Two mics on. Does anyone have any questions? Over there, okay.
I just had a question in regards to what does limited mean exactly for those two releases that you identified? Is it limited by geography or variables? So for September 28th, if we're looking to do CT level mapping, for example, will that data be available? Could you define limited a little more specifically? Thanks.
Sure. Okay, so limited means that yes, geography and variables will both be limited. In that, try to explain this in the best way. I knew we would have a question like that. So in terms of limited, that means that some local or community level results may become available at the following release date. So those geographies that you came to know coming out on each major release will likely at the smaller level of geographies be pushed to the next release. Um, so this will mean that municipalities, regional organizations, and other local users may see some detailed information released later than they may have been accustomed to in previous cycles. And then for the variables themselves, that is still in planning mode. So with regards to the level of detail that we're putting out for release, that I can't really speak to that right now, but I can definitely ask that question to my management.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any other questions here?
I don't know if it's too early to speak to this, but I'm just wondering about the sensitivity of some of the new content. I know that we had some difficulty getting tables on like gender diversity of couples. So you've got sexual orientation in there, perhaps homelessness. If we wanted to order a target group profile, with any of these variables in mind, can you speak to what sort of limitations might be on the data, or is it a bit early for that? I know the data we received on gender diversity was limited according to the population size for which the data was being released. So we could only get it at census subdivision level and at less than 5,000 population. It couldn't be crossed by a certain number of variables. Detailed gender wasn't maybe necessarily available. Do you have detail on that at this time?
So I'll take that one, I guess. No detailed information at this time, just because we're still in collection and we're still having ongoing discussions about data quality and confidentiality. The same rules would still apply. So where we're seeking to protect confidentiality and have suppression. So at this point, I can't say much for 2026, but I don't know if anyone else on the screen has any more input there. But I would say discussions are still ongoing with regards to what exactly will be coming out for those more sensitive topics.
Thanks.
Evelina, I think you're on mute.
Sorry, maybe I'm unmuted now. I mean, I'll just add that for the confidentiality strategies will be in place, just the same as they are for all other variables, and they will ensure that, confidentiality is preserved to the degree that we normally do so. So what that means for some of the more rare characteristics, I think we won't know until, like you said, Nicole, until we have all the data to work with, but absolutely confidentiality strategies are going to be in place for all variables, the same as they always have been.
Question.
Thanks so much. I had a question around the statistical building register, and you had mentioned that there's 91% of residential buildings included as part of that or represented in that data. I'm just curious if there's any further context you might be able to provide around is that a disproportionate impact to rural and remote communities in particular that aren't represented in that analysis? Or how will the data sort of handle the rural remoteness?
So in rural and remote areas, we just have a different approach to collection. We still aim to collect everybody who is living in those areas. We just have to employ a little bit more of like a hands-on approach because those areas don't have a mail. We don't have the ability to mail to them through Canada Post. So what we do is we do have staff that goes out there and delivers in-person invitations, as well as does the interviews in person as well for some of those really remote areas. But our goal really is to cover the entire country equally well. And this is something we're monitoring very closely and ensuring that, our data has high quality across the country everywhere and not just in the kind of urban centers that are easy to get to.
And I could add maybe a touch on that too when it comes to the SPGR. One of the data sources that the SPGR does use is previous census data. So if it's dwellings that have been enumerated in the past, unless there's indication that they shouldn't be on the frame, a lot of that information has been sort of ingested by the SPGR and used as one of their data sources. So it should be a fairly comprehensive list as to what's available and what's current.
I can add too is in the lead up to collection for this cycle, knowing that the frame is new or has not been used for this purpose before, we did a lot of improvements to the quality of it. So there was a lot of listing and verification of addresses in all areas across the country where we felt like that would be needed. So a lot of work has gone into really ensuring that the coverage is there for all parts of the country.
Thank you so much, Stelka. Sorry, this is too loud, I think. I hope you're able to listen to me properly. So I just have one question regarding the new questions that are now included in the census, specifically regarding the general health question. So my question is it going to be just like one question on the general health, or is it like a collection or a set of questions that are related to health issues?
Yeah, the new question itself is one question, and it's a 5-point scale. So I think it runs very good to the other end of the 5-point scale. So it is just that one question that I brought up on the screen. We do, the question is on our long form, and it appears right after a previous question that's called activities of daily living, which is where we get at people who have difficulty hearing or moving around or seeing. And that question is, it feeds into our post-censal surveys, which are a lot of our health surveys use the census data as a frame, use that as activities of daily living question as a frame to draw to as samples for the other health surveys. But on the actual census itself, it's just that one question that's been added.
Well, thank you so much. For me, this is specifically interesting because when I was in my undergrad, I did my thesis on using Statistics Canada data. It was the impacts of COVID on Canadians parenting during the pandemic. It was 20 data. So that was basically mostly on the health aspect of the questions that can usually run. So I thought maybe I would have something new which is interesting to work with at the census level. But yeah, I looked forward to having the full data and see how I can explore with this additional question. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I have a question that relates to engagement and inclusion. Are you planning to publish either or make available either as a custom data set, data order, or publicly online the analysis of responses by response method and by geography? Like, for example, like, what is the count of individuals who responded to the census by the first collection in a given province, for example?
Ivy, do you want to take that?
Yeah, sorry, we're just unmuting here. Yeah, maybe I can start to answer that, and hopefully it's adequate answer for what you're looking for. But I believe we do present us a table that shows how much self-response we have and how much paper, like self-response via the electronic questionnaire, how much self-response via paper we have, and how much is imputed information. I believe we have that information that is shared at some point when we have the data for that. I'm not sure what specifically you're thinking of beyond this, but I know that we also have some quality indicators that are created to show the response rate per variable for some of our variables. So that is also available on the website at some point as well when those are prepared. But I don't know what you mean by response method, if that's what you had in mind.
I think that you answered my question, like whether it's paper, whether it's, or like the first collection, like self-response or visit to the location, that kind of thing, or like you said, a response by the for collective dwellings, for example, response by the administrator of the collective dwelling. So I think that touched on that question I had.
I'm not.
Oh.
You're welcome.
So we have a question over here.
Maybe somewhat related to the last question. I'm just wondering how much consideration or thought is around the political climate in Alberta and the response rate that you might anticipate within the province here, and the reliability, I guess, on the stats that might come out of the census based on that.
I guess this question for me, maybe. I mean, our strategy in communications with the public is the same across the country. So we're encouraging everyone to respond to the census for all the reasons that we know they should. The amount of decision making that happens based on these data is significant and impacts people at low levels of geography. So it matters to all of us Canadians, and that's the message that we're sending out. So you know, we're hoping that this resonates with people, and so far, you know, that's the approach that we have. Will there be some kind of a difference in responses from certain parts of the country? Sometimes that can happen, but you know, we have our approach in follow-up, we have our approach in further communications, and so we will use all of our tools that we have to encourage that response rate to continue to increase. And ultimately, you know, we will process the data that we end up with. But absolutely, our team is following things as they happen. So, you know, we will use whatever strategies we can to increase our response rates as much as possible. Ultimately, what gives us the high quality data we have. So that's our goal all along.
Just picking up on the momentum of that question of a follow-up that's related, sort of a if, when, and how. Are you tracking, like, will you be sharing kind of benchmarks about how the response rate for 2026 is matching, say, 2021? And obviously you'll do that internally, but is that something you're planning to share at all as you go along?
We typically don't share response rates as they're happening. We do publish them at the end of the process. So you will find response rates shared for 2021 on our website somewhere. I'm sure Nicole can help you find that spot. So we will be doing the same with 2026. And so you will have the ability to compare those after at the end of the process when they're ready.
So I would expect to see the collection response rates for the census in fall of this year.
Hi, yeah, I was wondering if you have any information on Geography Day, when that's happening. When geography products are released.
So we have geography products being released. Let me just show you here. It's on our, just one sec. It's on our new look and feel of the web page. I'll just take 1 second here. So it's in the fall of this year. So November 18th, 2026, we will be having 2026 Census Geographic as well as reference products coming out. So while we don't consider that our first major release, internally it's a major release to us because we've got some products going out that are quite important.
Question on a different topic, just while I have my key. There's a lot of pressure on you to add more questions to the census. Like a lot of people are always asking, why don't you have this or that on the census? And are you able to, I guess, quantify or provide, like, how do you characterize response burden? And like, at what point do you set a limit? And do you see any pressure to increase response burden? I made sure to put on my census, I would be open to answering more questions.
Yeah, that's a great question. Every cycle, so we actually have our content consultation framework, and evaluating response burden is in there. Every cycle we do look at response burden, and for example, yeah, we talk about the 3 questions we added in this cycle. I didn't mention the 3 questions we removed, right? So we do look at whether or not we have an administrative data source for some of those questions, and maybe we don't need to ask people that question anymore. So every cycle we do go through that. We also, as part of our content consultations, we reach out to partners, data users across the country, and we want to find out what they need. So yeah, you're right. We hear so much from people about, can we add, a survey, can we add the number of household pets into the census? All that information that we get in, household pets is just one example, all goes into the mix. And ultimately, we look to figure out sort of where there's a legislative need. That's kind of our number one, where there's a legislative need for that data. And then we evaluate everything we've heard against our framework. We look at what's driving the need for the data, and we ultimately compile everything, and we give it to cabinet, and they're the ones who ultimately make the decision of what's in or out. Our content consultation framework, like I said, is on our website. I can share the link with Amanda, through Amanda, to the group, so you guys can go have a look at our framework if that would help to clarify. Have I answered your question?
I guess I was just wondering if you try to limit it to a certain amount of time, and what that might be.
We do evaluate how long it takes people to get through our questionnaire. It is one of the many metrics. It's not the only metric, but it is one of the many metrics that we do look at as part of our content consultation framework, content determination framework. I'll do that, Amanda.
Target group profile of pet owners.
Hi there. I just have a question about the response rate topic. Would you ever consider reaching out if you had a jurisdiction? Like, I always wait till the census gets published to know what our response rate is, and I always hope that we have a good low non-response rate, which historically we have. I'm in Banff, which is a very small community and a very transient one, so I never really know. But I think, would you ever consider reaching out in advance of sort of closing the gate to reach out to a partner, like a municipal partner, who may have a different relationship with their community? I mean, if we knew we had a low response rate, for example, we have a trust relationship with residents in our community, and we could help increase that response rate rather than just sort of do a generic, hey, when you get your census card, make sure you respond. Like if we knew we were responding to a specific issue, I think a lot of folks around this table would probably help and lean in because we rely so much on the census data. Is that something that you would ever consider doing, or have you done in the past?
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for bringing that up. This is indeed something that we do, and our communications team does actively reach out to communities. Now, do we cover each and every single one? I'm not sure. I really don't know how they go about that strategy, but I am certain that there's lots of opportunity to expand this and to work together to create that communications approach so that it does, make it to your communities in a way that's more meaningful to you. So please do reach out, and I'll be happy to connect you with some of our people in the comms team, and we can talk about how to make this happen. And of course, for many of you who are in the room right now, I think this is something that we absolutely want to engage with.
Awesome. Great. So are we good here? I will pass it to Michelle. Sure.
Yeah, thanks. I had a couple of questions on the limitations of daily or the activities of daily living. So that often, I guess, isn't fully, it's not released publicly, but will it be available for cross-tabulation in conjunction with the general health question, which I guess October 2027?
Your question's more about the release, so I'm not exactly sure. Nicole, do you have that information?
It's still in the planning stages, but I know for like activity limitation and health, I know activity limitation has been done as a custom request before. We haven't put that out in census data as like within our standard data products. So I would anticipate again that it would be at the custom level.
And then I had a question about one of the new, well, I don't know if it's a new question, but I understand you're handling commuting and place of work differently, and that there isn't a binary choice between usual place of work or work from home. You can indicate maybe multiple responses. I don't know if there's any methodological changes around the questions dealing with place of work.
Yeah, so I don't have the question up in front of me. I know that there were a bunch of changes to the labor questions. What I would like to do, if that's okay, if I could get your name and I could put you in touch with our subject matter partners who might be able to answer sort of the methodological changes behind those changes, if that's okay.
It's Michelle with the CDP team. So anybody on our team, you can respond to us.
Okay, wonderful.
So yeah, you'd mentioned there were a couple of questions removed. Can you tell us about those?
Yes, yes. So these are all in the long form census. So one of the questions that was removed, we were asking about dwellings on farm operations. And that question fed into our calculation of housing stock. So this, by removing the question, we still want to capture the people living in those dwellings, but we're removing that question off of the census of population questionnaire because we get that information from our census of agriculture that's run concurrently, and so there's no need to ask the same question twice. So that's one question we were able to remove off of the census of population long form questionnaire for this cycle. The other two questions top of mind are in the labor section. It was the main reasons for working full-time. No, main reasons for working part-time and main reasons for working. Oh, what's the other one? One's working part-time and what? Yeah, they're in the labor section. One is main reasons for working part-time, and the other one is main reasons for something. I don't have it off the top of my head. It is on our 2026 content change page that we have. But those questions were removed because they were new content added in 2021. And because of what happened in 2021 with the pandemic, there was a lot of people who weren't working full time. So we felt that it was an opportunity to remove that question this cycle because we don't have data to compare last cycle, and then reevaluate next cycle for possible inclusion again and come back to it. Ultimately, we had to make a decision on what we were proposing for content this year, and the need for legislative data in other areas superseded those questions, the need for those questions this cycle. Can I answer your question?
Yeah.
Thank you, and thank you for all your presentations. I had a question again about the comparison pieces between the census cycles, specifically because of the new frame. It does sound like the previous frame was included or considered in the new design, but I'm wondering, are there any comparison issues we should be aware of?
I think that they're on mute.
Sorry about that. Yeah, good question. Absolutely something others have asked me as well. We don't actually anticipate to see any comparability issues. And the reason is that really conceptually, we're looking to capture the same thing. We're looking to have all of the dwellings in the country on this list, on this new register. It's just that it's created in a slightly different manner with some additional new administrative sources that have now fed into the process. So we expect to see the same information reflected as we've had before. And for that reason, we also continue to have other processes in place to ensure full coverage of the country. So we don't anticipate to have any kind of comparability concerns. But again, it is possible that in some very small geographies, things are a little bit different, whether it is that the new frame has better coverage than before, which is entirely possible with more information being fed into its creation, or something else. It is possible at the small levels that things could be a little bit more interpret with caution in terms of the comparability, just because of that difference.
All right, thanks so much.
Thank you. Do you think we're good to wrap up? Great, awesome. So thank you so much, Stats Game, for joining us and responding to the questions. That was a great timing with the release. We appreciate that, and we will share this kind of presentation slides, and then the recording we'll share with the people later. Thank you so much. Amanda, is there anything else we should take care of?
Nothing else. I'll share the recording once it's done. Thank you all for attending.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. So we will have, I think, around 8 minutes break, so then we can kind of start with the new presentation the CTP team has. Thank you.